Good morning. Today, we'll be talking about female genital mutilation because just recently, on the 6th February, was the International Day of Zero Tolerance for Female Genital Mutilation. Thank you, Dr. Abdus-salam and Dr. Aderibigbe, for coming on the program. It's a pleasure to have you both here with us to share your knowledge on the subject. Now, can I start off with Dr. Abdus-salam, as you're a gynecologist? Can you tell us what exactly female genital mutilation is?
Thanks for having me on the program. Female genital mutilation or cutting, also known as female circumcision, that's what is commonly known as in the society, involves all procedures that involve partial or total removal of the external female genitalia or injury to the female external genitalia or genital organs, whether it's for cultural reasons or for other non-therapeutic reasons. That is when you cut off any part of the female external genitalia, that is let me say, put it simply, the female private part. So any part of that is removed for any reason that is cultural or non-medical or not for a reason of treating a medical condition, then you term that female genital mutilation.
How common is it in Nigeria? What areas of Nigeria is it commonly done?
Now, according to the National Demographic Health Survey 2018, it's the prevalence of female genital mutilation in Nigeria is about 20%. That is lower than what we have on with the National Demographic Health Survey 2013.
What you're saying, sorry, I need to just cut you here. 20% of all women have had female circumcision done. Is that what you're saying in Nigeria today?
Women and girls, women 15 to 49 years have had female genital mutilation, according to the National Demographic Health Survey. Now, in the 2013 National Demographic Health Survey put that percentage at about 25%. So it shows a reduction, but it may not translate to an actual reduction when you look at it in the general public in the society.
So are there any specific tribes or areas that do it?
Now in Nigeria, it is commoner in the southwest Nigeria. And it's believed that in the southwest is about 47%, in the south about 49%. It's common among the Yoruba population, followed by the Igbo population, and least amongst the, less among the Hausas, but the minority populations too are affected to varying degrees.
I need to understand it. Is it required by any religion, or is it a tribal specification? I mean, why is it performed?
Now, it's not a religious procedure. It's not required by any religion. And according to the National Demographic Survey, I mean, I'm having to refer to that because it gives figures that are representative of the Nigerian population. About 86% of women that were interviewed in the National Demographic Health Survey also affirm that it was not done for religious reasons in their different locations, and that's the data that cuts across all the geopolitical zones of Nigeria.
Would you say? Yes, carry on.
So, and it's done in several cultures for various reasons, and the reasons are peculiar to vary from location to location. In some locations, it's done as part of pubertal rites for a girl who is attaining puberty, so they call it rite of passage. In some other cultures, it's done at first childbirth as part of their rites of, I don't know if I'll call it rite of initiation to motherhood, depending on the culture in Nigeria.
But in some parts of the world, they do it when the baby is young. In Nigeria, is that not done?
Yes, it's done in Nigeria that early too. And according to that, the data we have, which is given the most recent data on FGM, about 80 something percent, about 86% thereabout of people had it done when they were less than 5 years. So many more people get it done in infancy compared to people having it done in older age groups.
Now, what are the different kinds of female genital mutilation or female circumcision? Are there different types? What are the different types? And are those different types specific to different areas or not?
Now, there are different types of female genital mutilation and cutting. And we have type 1 to 4. Type 1 is when the cutting is involves only cutting of the clitoris, the clipping of the tip of the clitoris or the entire clitoris, so a part or total excision of the clitoris. That is type 1. In type 2, it involves cutting of the labia minora. Now, the labia minora is the inner fold on the female genitalia. So it involves cutting a part or complete excision of that, or it may involve cutting the outer fold, which is the labia majora. So whether you're cutting just the labia minora, that is the inner one, plus or minus cutting the outer one, you classify that as type 2. And type 3 is when any part of that is cut, and then there is occlusion of the vaginal introitus. That is, after cutting, then they try to close it up, leaving just a small opening for the woman to be able, for the urine and other discharge to be able to come out. And then the type 4 is the type consists of other types. So it's not type 4 is not really a progression of type 3, but then it's a classification for all other forms of piercing, breaking, scarifications, and things like that are done on the genitalia.
So if I can ask why is it done then?
Now, as I said, it's done for various reasons in different cultures, and some of the cultures, they see it as in some cultures, they believe that it reduces promiscuity. In some cultures, it is believed that it reduces sexual pleasure, and so that the woman is not supposed to experience sexual pleasure, and in preventing that, they believe that it reduces the risk of promiscuity while she's growing up until she is married. In some other culture, it's believed as rite of passage, as I said earlier, that when a girl starts menstruating or she gets to puberty, it's done around that time. In some other cultures, it's done for, they believe that it makes a woman more beautiful. They believe that there are various reasons depending on the culture, basically. And then for the piercing and the type 4, people do it for beautification and other non-therapeutic, non-medical reasons. Okay.
Now, is it that, for example, in the Southwest, type 1 is done, and Southeast type 2 is done, or are all done across board in the South?
Okay. Depending on the location, I can say that almost all are done in different geopolitical zones of Nigeria. However, the studies have shown that the minor forms, the type 1 and type 2, are commoner in the South, and the more severe forms are commoner in the North, which is as opposed to the prevalence, which is higher in the South. So the South has a higher prevalence, but they're doing the milder forms. The North has a lower prevalence, but they're doing the more severe forms.
How does this female circumcision, how does it affect the health of women and girls? Or shall I ask a question? Does it affect the health? And if it does, how does it do so?
Okay, it affects the health of women and girls in various ways. Now, if we start from the immediate complication, when the circumcision is done, they run the risk of excessive bleeding. I've seen my first encounter with a female genital mutilation patient was a 5-year-old child. who was rushed into the hospital because she lost consciousness following female genital mutilation, and she lost so much blood. And one question we then had for the mom and our sisters that brought the child to the hospital was, now that you have experienced the severe form of complication, do you think it is a reason to stop, to abolish this culture, this procedure in the family? And you'll be surprised by their answer, which was, we've been doing it, our grandmas have been doing it, and it's a culture that we cannot abolish in the family. And despite the complication, they will continue to do it.
Even though they almost lost,
complication.
they almost lost the life of their child.
She needed not just resuscitation, she needed to be transfused for her to be stabilized. And despite going through that, despite spending so much money for something that was preventable, they were still willing to go through that path again. Another complication, which is one of the immediate complications, is infection, bacterial infection, because under the procedure, apart from the fact that it's not a proper procedure, it's a violation of the rights of the women and girls that are undergoing it. It's also done in an unsafe, unhygienic environment. We do not know the kind of instruments that are used. They are not sterile, the conditions. I mean, for some of the pictures we have from some of our previous trainings, you can see that even the environment in which it is done is just not proper, even for any other. I can't imagine any other procedure being done there other than for the places to be closed, but they continue to do it. If HIV infection is a risk, bacterial infection is a risk, hepatitis B virus infection is a risk, and many people will not. I mean, for somebody finding out about hepatitis B virus 3, 4, 5 years down the line after having the procedure, they possibly won't link it to the female genital mutilation they had several years back. Other complications, they form scars. There could be labial agglutination. I've done a couple of adductolysis for young girls that had female genital mutilation where they were infants. And then the labia, the raw area on the two sides of the labia tends to heal together. So sealing off the labia, sealing off the whole area, and you're just leaving a small space. Sometimes it's a complete closure just from the procedure. So they can actually fuse together. And once it fuses together, the area behind the labia will be a good, will create a good environment for discharge, for secretions to linger. And when that happens, infection can set in. And sometimes they also come with a recurrent urinary tract infection because of the exposure to bacterial infection. Long term, some of them may form keloids. Some people generally have the risk of having hypertrophic scar and keloids. So they tend to, so from that scarring there, they can have hypertrophic scar, they can have keloids, which will deform the external genitalia, and she'll have to start worrying about having to do other procedures, which she could have avoided if she was not exposed to the female genital mutilation. Clitoridal cysts, when the clitoris has been cut off, sometimes, and with healing, sometimes some of the glands around there get occluded. And so a cyst may form, secretions may collect there. And I've seen a cyst as big as 20 centimeters in size. If we look at, that's like 2/3 of the regular wooden ruler. Wow. I've seen cysts that big from female genital mutilation. And some of them do not. I'll say that I've seen cases also that even though they don't have the cyst yet, they came for maybe for us to separate a labial agglutination, but you can see that there is already a spot on the clitoris suggesting that they're likely to develop a cyst in future. But it's so small, you really can't deal with it at the time. But you can see that the cyst is going to develop here because you can already see something budding off on it. Long term, sometimes they have obstructed labor because the area around the vagina to unhealing, the tissues are fibrosed, from the scar, they are rigid, and so it does not yield easily at the outlet of the birth canal. So they can sometimes have obstruction at delivery.
Wow.
Some of the other complications are psychosocial complications, mental health disturbances, and there are so many things that they experience. Some of them go into anxiety, depression. They have sexual dysfunction from having female genital mutilation.
I mean, that is an overwhelming list, a really long, long list. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Aderibigbe, for joining us on this call. You're a medical doctor and you are a survivor, aren't you, of female genital mutilation or female circumcision. Can you tell me about how you had it and what have been the consequences for you personally of having had that done?
Okay, thank you very much for having me here. I usually like to go whole house to let people know the effects of female genital mutilation. No girl, no woman needs to be subjected to this harmful practice. For me as a survivor, my story is not different from the stories of the 200 million women and girls that have been subjected to female genital mutilation globally. Of course, just like Dr. Abdus-salam mentioned earlier, most in this part of the world, girls are usually caught before age 5, and that is what is also prevalent in the community where I come from. I was caught at a time that I cannot say no, that I cannot say yes. And getting to grow up and having to live with the consequences of FGM, at that point, I was told that they didn't want babies to remember the pain. That is why they caught them at that very early age. But now having to grow up with consequences and not knowing what was responsible for some of those consequences, and then getting to know later made me ask myself, which pain is greater? Is it the pain of getting to know when it was done, or the pain of having to live with consequences and not knowing what is responsible for the things you're going through? I would say that no girl deserves to go through those pains. That being said, for me, I was caught at a very early age, and it was when I was already in medical school that I knew that some of the things that I was able to relate and some of the things I was going through was because of FGM. I remember that I attended a boarding school, and in the boarding school, I would be shy to, I would not want to have my mates with other students because the boarding school exposed me to getting to know what, in quote, the normal external female genitalia was. And I knew something was wrong with mine. So I would wait for other students to, have their bathe, go to school. And most times I would get to school late. When I discovered that it was not helping, I would not even go to the bathroom at all. I would wait till evening before I take my bath, just because I don't want other students to, get to know what was wrong with me. And I went on like that. Not until I got to medical school, and then I had the teaching on female genital mutilation. In fact, even in medical school, I did not still get to understand that it was FGM because I couldn't relate, and I didn't want to believe that it's possible I had been subjected through that, because I felt that, oh, fine, my parents will not do that to me. In fact, the name is costly because I'm so precious to them, and I felt that they would not make me go through that harmful cultural practice. So I was already campaigning against FGM with some of the local organizations I work with. I happened to school in the same community where I am from. So I was already working in that community, and it was outside. It was during one of my outreaches that I got challenged by one of our beneficiaries that no, it is possible that I had also been subjected to FGM, that if I'm truly from that community, I must have been subjected to it. And that was when it got done on me that, could it be true? Could this not be true? So I had to, go home and then find out from my parents. And that was when I was able to tie all the dots together. And for me, it was a very sad experience because I'd had issues, personal issues. I've had some complications. I had also learned about it, and I felt that FGM is very terrible, horrible. And then I've also gone to communities to even speak to people about it before now getting to know that even for me, I'd also gone through it. But instead of, getting very angry with my parents, with people around me, I decided to do something which defined, which was my turning point. I decided to now channel all the anger, channel all the energy to ensuring that no girl had to go through FGM. And ever since I got to know, ever since I learned about the fact that education does not stop women from subjecting their daughters to female genital mutilation. Myself and other survivors that work together have been we've been on an aggressive campaign. We've embarked on a very aggressive campaign, and we've reached out to a lot of people, both educated, non-educated, people in rural communities. Because this FGM thing is a very strong hold, and people hold it so much in our esteem. It doesn't matter whether you're a foreigner, it doesn't matter whether you're in Nigeria or any other African countries where FGM is prevalent. It doesn't matter whether you're educated or whether you're non-educated. It's about culture, and culture is something that is very deep with human beings. So we've done a lot of campaigns, we've done a lot of work, and we'll still do more, because we would not stop until we have a generation of girls that are free and that are not caught.
Thank you so much. And I also want to really applaud your courage and applaud, what you're doing, going out of your way. And this year, the theme actually is accelerating investment to end FGM, calling for support for programs to provide services and also to do what you're doing, which is education and which is going out there into the communities to work. So I don't know, do you have an NGO? Is there anything we can do to perhaps encourage people? Do you have a number that you could perhaps call out? So if there are people out there listening to you and they're thinking to themselves, you know what, I would like to support this young lady, they can perhaps call you or and do that. Can you give us a number for our listeners, just in case they would like to support you, in line with this year's call for investment to end FGM? What's your number?
Very much. Thank you very much. With the support of the United Nations Population Fund, Osun State sets up a 24/7 rescue line, and this rescue line, they trained rescue team, they trained different cadres of health workers to be able to relate with this rescue line. So it's toll free. It's toll free when you call it with an Airtel network, and the number is 090-2322-7272. I'll take that again. 090-2322-7272. You can call this number anytime, any day. It's available 24 hours. People that are handling it are experts. They're able to give counseling services, and then for further services, they are also able to serve as linkage to service centers. They're able to refer when appropriate. We've had a lot of people calling, and we've had a lot of people get support, value clarification, on the issue of FGM. So please call at any point. You want to clarify values, you have girls that are at risk of FGM, please, you can reach out, and then you can be sure that even if those and they cannot provide the instant service, they would refer to where they will link the caller up with where you can get that service almost immediately. It's 24 hours.
Thank you very much. And that is something that I hope people will use, because I am aware that there's been a recent case in the press, in the media, about a young lady who just came home and found out her mother-in-law had taken her child and had done FGM. Now, between yourself and Dr. Abdus-salam, are there any laws in Nigeria prohibiting FGM? I know, for example, in US, there are laws that prohibit it. If you try it in US, or even take a US citizen out of the US to do it, you can go to jail for as long as 5 years for doing FGM. And so many other countries in the world have active laws. Are there any laws in Nigeria against this?
Okay, so there are laws against female genital mutilation in Nigeria. The first law we have is the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act of 2015. It was domesticated in Nigeria after so many series and levels of advocacy. But thank God we got domesticated by the federal, by the National Assembly, both the Senate arm and then the House of Rep arm. So we got it domesticated, and ever since there's been an aggressive campaign to states to also have this law, law adapted to suit situations in their state. So as we speak now, we have more than 22 states. I'm not sure of the correct number. I don't know if Dr. Abdus-salam has the data around the numbers of states that have passed it. But then the data is constantly changing, because even just recently, about 3 months ago, my state, Osun State, also joined the League of States that have enacted this, that have domesticated this Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act. And some of the provisions we have in the law also covers for female genital mutilation, which is very, very beautiful. There's a penalty for even girls that subject themselves to female genital mutilation. There are penalties for people that conspire to, perform female genital mutilation. There are penalties for, anybody that attempts to alter the process of justice when an FGM case investigation is going on. There are penalties for perpetrators of FGM. This is also telling us that the government is strongly in support of the campaign to end female genital mutilation. It has no benefit. It has no benefit at all for women and girls.
So, and Dr. Abdus-salam has actually said so many complications. It was actually never ending. And I'm sure there are so many. She didn't even talk about the mental health issues and the psychosexual issues as well that are linked to it. So, Dr. Aderibigbe, we have some questions to ask you. Someone has asked that they heard what you said about the challenge of going to the bathroom, and I'm not sure. Is it obvious? Is it something people can see when they see you undressed? The shows, is it very obvious?
Okay, so FGM scars girls for life. Once it's been done, it is irreversible and it leaves a permanent scar. At times when we talk about FGM, we'll say that, okay, so you might not be able to see it by just looking at my face, but what I'm going through is beyond the scar on the face. For FGM, it depends on the type of FGM that is being performed. For some types, once you, okay, so because of the school I attended, it's a boarding school, and then you get to take your bed with other girls. So somehow, if you have type 1B, if you have type 2 performed, in fact, if you have, it might not be that very obvious, but somehow you know that you know what you have if you are very observant. Somebody like me, because they talk to us about toilet disease, about examining our self and all of that in the boarding school. So I know what is normal. And then having to stay with about 10 girls in the room, and we dress before ourselves every day. So I know what is normal with them, and then I know that from my own experience, what I have is not normal. So you might not be able to see it directly. You might need to, examine a girl before you are able to really see it. But if you have type 3 done, you have type 2 done, you might just be able to know that something is wrong by just looking very carefully at the external female genitalia.
Now, a question I want to ask.
Can I add to Dr. Aderibigbe's comment?
Of course.
Okay. So as you said, it's a function of the type that was done. However, the complications that come with it may be the first things that makes the woman not comfortable with her genitalia. Like I said, somebody can have a woman can have a keloid forming on the genitalia, the areas where the the female genital mutilation was done. So it deforms, so you can see her having swellings and masses, growth on her genitalia in between her legs. And then she has to, for a young girl that has that, for her to bathe with others, she won't see other girls with something growing in between their legs and things. So even if it is not directly obvious, knowing that there is a problem, it's enough to give the patient some stigma, telling her that she's different from others. The same thing with the clitoridal cyst I mentioned earlier. Clitoridal cyst is an outgrowth, so it's dangling. It's like you have a ball on a stalk, and it's dangling and just right there on the perineum. So you don't need to be told that. You may not know what this is, but you know that no, not everybody has this growth, and it's not normal.
I'm just so happy
Thank
what
you.
Dr. just said. I want to say that we should not look at these complications as something that is very, very far from us. We have a lot of girls that have undergone FGM that are living with this cyst complication. In just my little time of work, I've met about 5 of them with 6. So it's something that is very, very much with us. And when you see it, the site is not even, is not beautiful at all. So girls with cysts are usually very, very disturbed. So it's something that we don't want any girl to go through.
Thank you. Now, if you don't mind, I'd like to ask you a very personal question. Now, can you tell us how you felt emotionally when you found out that you had actually had female genital mutilation?
Okay, thank you very much.
How did you overcome it to become the fighter that you are now?
Okay, so I usually like to share this. Maybe I should better paint the picture of how I got to know. So immediately I got challenged in the community. I, got home. It was even almost late. I packed my bags and I said, today I'm going to go home and challenge my parents. It's, in this part of the world, especially in Southwestern Nigeria, there's this very high respect that children are supposed to have for their parents, and then it becomes very difficult to ask some personal questions from them or to challenge them. But for me that day, I said, I'm going to face my fear and I'm going to ask them. So I packed my bags. And then it was more like a drama because of getting home. Luckily, I did not even know. I'd called my mom. She said she's at home, and she didn't tell me that we have a guest at home. So getting home, I met my mom, and then I met my grandma. I was very, very happy. In my mind, I wanted to jump up that, oh my God. So I'm going to have the opportunity to ask both of them. So just immediately after greeting them, I didn't want to take so much time because it was like, I told myself I will ask today. I want to know today. And I didn't want that energy to go down. So I sat down, and just about the time they were asking, how is school? Why did you come home? And I just said, Ma, I want to know whether I was caught. Was I mutilated? Is it true about what they told me in the community that almost all the girls from, my state have been caught? Could I have been caught? We've never stayed there. We've stayed in another state, and all of that. And I was expecting them to say, no, whatever you've noticed or anything is congenital. But, to my utmost surprise. And so they told me that it was true. And immediately, one person pointed accusing finger at the other person and said, this is the person that brought the cutter from the village. And at that time, we didn't know whether it was wrong or not. So it's just now that we're getting to know that it's wrong. It's just now that awareness is getting to everybody about the effects of FGM. But at that time, it was normal for every girl to be circumcised. In fact, your younger sister was also caught. So it was after our birth that we got to know that we were not supposed to actually circumcise girls. And my grandma also had to say that we had done it for so many girls. We didn't know that it was wrong. In fact, I had to pay the transport fare of the cutter from the village and accommodated the cutter in town to perform FGM on you. And that broke my heart. Those words broke my heart. And so I started, for me at that point, I had to now look back, check everything, merge 1 and 2 and 3, merge it together, and it was very, very sad. So they also almost shed tears that they are sorry, they didn't know, and all of that. And I said, fine, I've forgiven everyone, no problem. would have to deal with this. So I was inside, I was indoor, and rather than going back to school the second day, I could not even go back. I had to stay for like 3 days at home, trying to think of what next, what should I do. In fact, at some point, I was almost going into depression. I said, I'm not interested in, talking to people, because I started with GBV camp. Actually, FGM was just, the FGM work I said I was initially doing was just an addition to the GBV campaign I was doing for the Nigerian Medical Student Association. I was leading the GBV campaign in Osun State. So FGM is a component of GBV, and I was just talking about it in person. In fact, at that time, I thought that nobody in his or her right senses should allow a girl go through FGM. I didn't know that it was that with the community, not until we started working in community. So for me, I was like, I'm not even going to talk to anybody about it. What's the point? I'm not even interested in. So I was almost losing interest in things that, I usually have interest in, and I was very sad. I had, I asked myself a lot of questions. Some I could provide answers for, some I could not provide answers for. My friends were trying to reach me. They could not reach me on phone. They were worried, and they didn't know what was wrong. So it took about 2 days. That's almost about 48 hours before, and I had to put myself together and told myself that fine, what I've been done, I can't undo it again. I don't have the opportunity to reverse what I've been done. If I had the power to reverse time, I think I would have, maybe as a baby, I would have stood up and said, no, you can't do that for me. I'm going to escape. But then there was no way I could do that again. So what can I do differently? And that was when I told myself that, okay, I think I can work with, and I'm very sure that there are a lot of other girls that have been caught, and then we can work together to let people know that this is real. This is real, and we have to end it. Even at that time, I had seen women with complications as a result of FGM. So I was also scared that, hey, hope when I want to deliver, I'm not going to have to go through this. Hope when I get married, I'm not going to have sexual dysfunction, which I also noticed a part, because even some of my friends will say, oh, Kosle, you're a tomboy. I said, no, I'm just very, I don't just have time for some things and all of that. So, but then I started getting scared and all of that. I said, okay, fine, it's happened. It has happened already. There's nothing I can do, but let me work with other people to ensure that girls are safe. And that was when we started our aggressive community sensitization, mobilization, and I met all the survivors in the communities that we worked together to create awareness. And ever since then, we've never stopped.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for, as I said, thank you for your courage and your perseverance. It means a lot. And it means a lot to all those unborn children that are being saved from this terrible affliction. Now, Dr. Abdus-salam and
yes, please.
Dr. Aderibigbe, just a few minutes. I mean, the story is, I found very heartening, was the fact that her mother and grandmother realized it was wrong and realized that it was something they shouldn't have done, and they regretted it. But unfortunately, that doesn't seem to be the norm. A lot of women, even though they hear of the problems that it causes, as you even had mentioned, they still want to do it, and they want to perpetuate this, violence against the female child. What can we do? I mean, Dr. Aderibigbe is out there campaigning. There's a law against it, and yet still you're talking 20%. It's very high, 20% of the population, female population. What can we do against it? Should things be more stringent? Should we be locking up grandmothers that are doing this? And mothers? What do we need to do to really make an impact and stop it?
Okay, thank you very much. Well, I will mention something before I then go to what we can do with it. I'll say that the campaign and the health education in the community has had an impact. But one of the fallbacks of the impact, which we have seen in the last couple of years, is the medicalization of FGM, where some people actually bring their children to the hospital trying to seek female genital mutilation. That's because now we campaign, we tell them it is not safe. It's being performed by people who are not skilled. We tell them it is being performed in an unhygienic environment. We tell them children are likely to have hemorrhage. They bleed a lot from it, infection. So they are trying to also shift it to, okay, if you say I can have it in the community, if you say I can have it with a traditionalist, then let me come to have it in the hospital, which gives an opportunity to counsel them and say that it's not an alternative to this practice we call harmful. Some even go as far as, okay, we can have it under anesthesia just to reduce some of the pain and the infection, bleeding that we say it causes. So they're trying to medicalize it to reduce the complication, but honestly, it's not an alternative to performing FGM. So we need to counsel people that, and as I said earlier, at the point of leaving the hospital, when a woman has just delivered and she's leaving the hospital, we counsel them on prevention of cervical cancer, infant immunization, infant feeding, and things. I think it's high time we incorporate abolishing female genital mutilation as part of the counseling. We should take it as it should be part of the routine counseling. And it should be part of the counseling at the time she's leaving the hospital, at the time she comes for a 6 weeks postnatal care, because between that time and the 6 weeks is a lot of time to have done the FGM. If she has not gotten it done because our counseling is resounding, we need to reinforce counseling at that point also. We need to also reinforce it at the immunization clinics, so that, and let them know, let the women know that if something like that is about to happen, they should approach the hospital, so that possibly the health workers, and I would say that in many hospitals, the immunization clinic is being run by public health nurses that are well trained in counseling, health education, community network, and things like that. And we can actually link them to hotlines like Dr. Aderibigbe has said, so that there are people working in the community that can actually go to the community and speak to them within that community. Another thing we can do is we need to speak to the traditionalists. So I'm looking with the first one is looking at it from the point of view of a patient. We need to let the patient know that you need to stop it. From the point of view of those who are offering the service, the traditionalists, we need to start counseling them and help them find alternatives. I believe it's a means of livelihood for many of them, and just asking them to stop it is not enough. It's not enough reason for them to stop it. I don't know how much they charge. I don't know how many they do per day, but for whatever amount they charge and the number of girls they get to circumcise, it may be a major source of income for them. So we need to also focus on the traditionalists as a focus group for us to counsel, and we need to start speaking to them that it shouldn't be done, because saying that they're not doing it openly, like Dr. Aderibigbe said, it was actually done in the four walls of our home. She wasn't taken to the traditionalist home. She wasn't taken to the site where it is done for other girls. So if they say they're not doing it openly in their traditional clinics in quotes, they are still going to homes to get it done for people who are asking for it. So we need to start speaking to people about not doing it, and possibly the government. I'm not sure of what state, but I learned that as part of the campaign against FGM at some point, they started offering some stipend to the traditionalists to distract them from having to continue because it's their means of livelihood. They also did that to encourage them to report cases and bring people forth for counseling and health education in order to prevent them from doing it. So we can't just tell the people doing this, the local circumcision, we can't just tell them to stop it. We've got to counsel them. We've got to let them understand. We've got to show them the complications, and we've got to provide an alternative for them. Some other form of empowerment or suggestions on other things that they can do, pending the time we're able to abolish all of this. Then we also need to look at the so-called medical staffs who are doing it under hygienic environments, who are doing it under anesthesia. We need to speak against that. in some communities, and I'll say that even abroad, circumcision is being done. And I remember that I've read publications from, I think, Australia, from Canada, and I think from UK, where children who were born and have lived in UK all their life, possibly just going for vacation in Middle East and some other parts of the world, being circumcised. Where is it getting? Where are they getting it done? Are we saying that they're getting it done within the Western world, or they're taking them back home for circumcision? So we need to look beyond just telling the women. We need to go to the grassroots and tell people, and tell them with examples. Some people have never seen the complications, so they may not be able to relate with it when you're talking about complications. Some people have seen complications and they are still willing to continue doing it. We need to actively speak to them. We need to actively tell them that the short-term complications, you may be able to prevent the short-term complication by going to the hospital, by getting it done in a hygienic environment, by taking all the precautions, but you cannot prevent the long-term complications, like some of what Dr. Aderibigbe has said. So I'll say that basically those are some of the things we need to look at. And then more importantly, in states where the rules have been adopted, I'm not sure we are implementing
enforcing.
the rules.
I think that's what we're talking about, enforcement of the laws. So do you have any last words for our listeners? Just a few quick last words.
Okay, so I'm going to say that when you talk about investment to end female genital mutilation in line with the team, it means that we need more people to join the campaign. It's not just about funding, it's about people joining the movement to end FGM. Whatever platform you have, you can use it. You can use the social media, you can talk about it in your religious home, you can talk about it in your house. We need to join the movement to end FGM, and that is when we can accelerate progress so far. Thank you very much.
Dr. Abdus-salam, any last words?
Yes, I'll share a quick experience in 30 seconds, and then I'll say, I was just going to mention, in line with what Dr. Aderibigbe said, my experience this week, I remember a patient I delivered and seeing her the next day after delivery, and she asked me, so what next? So how do we sort out the immunization? She asked me about immunization, and then she asked me about circumcision for a girl child. And I thought to myself that you're educated, you have a master's degree, your husband has a master's degree, and you're asking me about circumcision. So I want to say that as gynecologists and as a woman, I think every woman has a role to play in reduction of FGM and abolishment of FGM. And I think the gynecologists and obstetricians, they have a role to play, because I think we are central to counseling the patients before they leave the hospital. We are central to counseling the patients in front of the grandmas and grandpas that are going to encourage them and take them there. We are central to counseling them in front of the husband, in front of the auntie who is going to encourage the mother, or who is going to take the child away from the mother without her consent and get the FGM done. So we really, counseling the patient in front of all of those people, we're actually giving the woman a voice for her to say, did you hear what the doctor said in the hospital? I shouldn't do it. So it may actually give her an opportunity and encourage her to be able to speak against it whenever and wherever the issue comes up. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Aderibigbe, for sharing. Thank you, Dr. Abdus-salam. And let us all, in wherever we are, try to speak out against this practice. Thank you very much.